As more and more legacy infrastructure is migrated to the cloud, more and more businesses face the task of migrating infrastructure to the cloud. For Tech Republic and ZDNet, I'm Dan Patterson. We have a lot of great resources on how to manage cloud data available on Tech Pro Research, but this process doesn't have to be scary or terrifying. With us today is Aaron Rollo. He is the CEO of TSO Logic. Aaron, your company specializes in migrating companies to the cloud. So I wonder if you could first tell me a little bit about how your technology works and a little bit about your approach.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. So with TSO Logic, we've really focused on discovery and cloud planning for enterprises. One of the challenges that many enterprises face in thinking about migration to cloud is, how much stuff do I have? What's it costing me to operate it today? And what's it going to cost me when I do run this in the cloud through one of the public cloud providers? And it's surprising that many enterprises don't have the answer to those questions, but it has just been symptomatic of the growth that the enterprises had as they went through virtualization, as they went through acquisition of other companies, brought in new tech resources into their companies, and they've just grown to be very, very, very large in that regard. And they've lost track of how much compute they have, how much storage they have, and how they're using it. So what TSO Logic has done is built an analytics platform that can very quickly ingest data about the enterprise environment, figure out how much compute and storage you have, how you're using it, how old is that hardware, what's it costing to operate on-premise today, and what would it look like if you wanted to run that in the cloud in an optimized fashion. And then you get a full business case that you can bring to your other executive stakeholders to get your cloud or your transformational path moving forward.
So one question we encounter frequently in this space, and it may seem kind of rudimentary or fundamental, but it's a good question, is what's step one? How do I choose a cloud hosting provider? I think a lot of CXOs probably face the fear of making the wrong choice. So how do I make a good decision about starting with a cloud host?
Yeah, so I think that the key is to realize that cloud is not the only destination, or a single cloud is not the only destination. Different workloads are going to have different profile patterns and different options to run in the cloud. So you'll be looking at things like, what types of workloads am I running today? What types of applications am I running today? You'll probably want to do some analysis to say, is this an application that I actually have to host on my own infrastructure? Or is it something where I could use a platform as a service or a software as a service offering? Great examples of that, looking at database technology today, right? Many enterprises have traditionally been running their own database infrastructure for many years. But when you look at the fact that you can get databases as a service from almost all the major cloud providers now, it becomes a good opportunity to consider a platform change or replacing infrastructure as a service with a platform as a service. So I would caution that there's probably not one cloud provider fits all, especially for larger enterprises. I think there's a lot of benefit to multi-cloud strategy. There's certainly benefits for smaller enterprises to go all in to get to platform as a service and software as a service as quickly as possible to really drive down cost and ease operational burdens.
What about the ingestion of data? How does the technology work, and how do you make decisions on what data is important, and then how do you prioritize important data?
Yeah, so data analytics is really the key to the best decision-making possible. For so many years, enterprises have been using spreadsheet calculations, back-of-the-napkin calculations to figure out how much compute they have and what it would cost to run it in the future, whether the future was cloud or whether it was new hardware on-prem or private cloud. So the key to the data is to understand the operational patterns of your workloads, to understand how much computational capability you actually need for the different types of workloads that you're running. Because once you have the data for that, once you can understand how those workload patterns are used today, you can figure out how to optimize it in the future. And what that really allows you to do is eradicate overprovisioning from your environment.
And I'm glad you use that term, overprovisioning. When I look at budgeting and I look at kind of the fear of not allocating enough to a particular area, how do I avoid the opposite of that, which is over allocation and spending too much in the wrong places when I'm first using the cloud?
Yeah, you know, over provisioning has been symptomatic. It's not a cloud specific phenomenon. It's really been a matter of IT stakeholders provisioning hardware for business stakeholders that don't have a good understanding of how much compute they really need, and the lack of actual profiling going on to see how much compute you actually need. There's also certainly been a willingness of hardware manufacturers to sell you the biggest, largest boxes that they could offer. The real power of cloud is that you can thin slice. Right? What used to happen is you'd buy 4 or 5 different configurations of compute as an enterprise, and you would jam all of your workload patterns into one of those 4 sizes, most often opting for the largest available footprint. With cloud, you can pick from dozens of different sizes. So you can really fit the instance size to your workload pattern, but you have to understand that workload pattern to really make sure that there's no over provisioning.
And what about security in the cloud, particularly with the upcoming GDPR? A lot of companies will be thinking, oh gosh, could I be the next Equifax? How manage cloud security and make good decisions that enabled me to work with a secure provider?
Yeah, you know, I think security in the cloud has really come a long way in the last several years. I think that there's enough precedent out there now that you can really look at the fact that cloud is using the latest and greatest hardware technology, the latest and greatest software technology. And, from my viewpoint, the security levels of cloud are much higher than they are in many enterprises today. In having experience and looking through lots of enterprise compute and using an analytics platform to understand that, we still see a lot of old, outdated operating systems. We still see enterprises running Windows XP and early versions of Windows Server that you just know they're not properly patched. When you're going through cloud and going through cloud transformation, you're going to be forced to run on the latest and greatest hardware, OSs, and software. And you've also got the cloud providers that are looking out from a security perspective of the data. I mean, vulnerabilities are going to happen. They're going to happen everywhere. I would say, in my experience and what I've observed so far in working with the major cloud providers, security in the cloud is significantly stronger than it has been in the past, and it's going to continue to get stronger.
Aaron Rollo is the CEO of cloud migration and data analytics firm TSO Logic. Aaron, I wonder if you could look into the future a little bit. What did the next 12, 18, 36 months look like in terms of enterprise cloud migrations and cloud trends?
Yeah, for sure. We've been using our software platform for the last several years to help enterprises figure out how to transform. So it's put us in a great position to algorithmically look at how costs have changed over time. One of the things that we recently did is we took about 100,000 instances from our data repository of our usage and utilization patterns of compute running on premise today, and we went back in time and said, hey, what would it cost if we wanted to run these exact workloads in the cloud just 3 years ago? And what we found is that the cost of cloud today is 57% less expensive than it was just 3 years ago for like workload patterns. My projection for the future is that the cost of cloud is going to continue to decline. Security levels are going to improve in the cloud, and that enterprise transformation to cloud is going to accelerate at a fairly rapid pace.